Hello, chat. Hello. Welcome back to Our Life Beginnings and Always. How are we doing? How is everyone? Been wanting to get back into this. I've just been pretty busy, but I am back, and it is time to play. How is everyone doing? Also, is my audio all working and stuff? You know, can you hear the game music? Can you hear me? Yeah, is that all good? Cool. Well, we can get started. Go load file, open. So, alrighty. So, last stream, we got through the opening sequence, I guess, and then 2 of the moment events. In this playthrough, I guess, I will do all the DLC content, you know, thanks to Stella donating, into my chaotic streaming. Thank you again, Stella, for getting me the DLC. But, we will, get started on this. Yeah, so, does anyone have a preference on ghost, barbecue, or sleepover? Or shall we just go left to right with the, not the non-complete ones? What do we feel like today? Spent at least $50 on streamers this month, $6 is nothing. Still, you spent money on me. Thank you, man. Dude. Wow. Think we'll go left to right on what DLC we go with. Well, not DLC, but like the content. So, and start with Ghost. So. Also, the music in this game. Before we get in, I just want to say, the music in this game, I love it. Just chill vibes, you know? Real chill. Anyways, let's get into Ghost moment. The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You could even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. The ones that stuck out all seemed to include your new neighbour, Cove. It was funny how he'd become such a big part in your life in such a short span of time. You thought about what adventures you'd have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then, you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst time. The more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed like it became. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing you could see, at least. I would investigate. I tend to ignore things until it annoys me, so investigate. You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Your mums were still awake. They stayed up so late, it seemed. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't hear the soft click of the front door opening as you slipped past. You looked around the neighborhood for a few seconds, checking over each individual house. It looked normal, but it didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here right now. It scared me. Yeah, I get scared easily, guys. You didn't know what had come over you. If something bad happened, no one would know when... I can't speak. If Something bad happened, no one would know where you had gone, and the thought of that made your stomach tighten in fear. The ease of which you had slipped out only served to make you feel worse. Your mums didn't need to be vigilant because they had trusted you not to do exactly what you were doing.
Crystal!
You twitched at the sudden call, immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking up to you. It was strange, and yet also completely normal, to have him appear like this right now. Look at his jumper! Oh my god! He's adorable, guys. I love him. Okay. What are you doing? I saw you standing around in the middle of the street from my window. You weren't sleeping either? Why not? Cove turned his lips up to smile, almost as if he were amused by the question. Because. Did you hear a weird noise? You could tell you hit the nail on the head by the way his eyes widened. Yeah, you knew? I heard it too. That's why you came out, huh? Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquamarine eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you? A little. Me too. I feel better that you're here. Me too. The two of you delicately smiled at that. Cove even chuckled a bit. It was nice that you both felt the same way about things. I was wondering if it was the wind, but what if it's not? What if it's a person? What if it's something that's not a person? The unsettling noise suddenly rushed through the air. Cove and you flinched. It sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with him when the noise came yet again, tearing through the still night. The two of you rapidly looked around, trying to find the source, but to no avail. There was no sign of an answer to this puzzle. You thought that it could be anything. You aren't going to rule out possibilities yet. It was a mystery. Do you think it was a ghost? It might be. I don't know. The thought of some sinister, invisible thing lurking in the darkness wasn't exactly a pleasant one. Cove seemed downright terrified at the notion. At least, as long as the two of you stuck together, everything would be okay. Hey, can you tell me where it's coming from?
Not really.
Then we'll have to look more, somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something. Okay, let's go. You clustered together as you walked the familiar streets of your neighborhood, drawing strength from each other's presence. Shadows cut corners and angles where you didn't expect them, distorting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. It set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way in through you. Cove's throat bobbed. His eyes glistened in the dim light. Not gonna lie, I just had 2 Discord notification sounds and got so confused. Yeah, no, I think that might be my own Discord. Let me there, I have closed my own Discord. Anyways. Hold on, let me get back. The noise came again. Blah, blah. Noise. Scary noise. You offered him your hand. You really wanted to be there for him and wanted to show that. Your hand was left up to him to take. Cove's mouth opened wordlessly. There was a pause, but ultimately he accepted the offer. His hand was really sweaty, but it didn't bother you. You were scared too, but being able to comfort Cove was the most important thing right now. Cove shut his eyes and pressed his lips together. Your fingers locked around each other even tighter.
So...
where do you want to check? The hill's behind my house. You and Cove ascended the hill, lit only by the stars in the night sky. The wind rippled through the grass and ruffled your hair. Without the sun's light to translate what you were seeing, every bush in the distance looked like a creepy figure or towering monster. The noise was just as loud here as it was in your neighborhood, with just as little indication behind the cause. Keep going. You couldn't stop when you'd already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. The top of the hill was an excellent vantage point to survey the town from. Everything appeared normal. There was no out-of-place sight pinpointing the answer to this mystery. Without visible markers to guide your way, you supposed it was up to you and Cove to deduce the source of the sound. The hill had many great hiding places, and you intended to check them all. You upturned rocks, peered up trees, and rummaged in thick grass for anything that might bring some closure on all this. You stopped close to Cove as you hunted for the source of the noise. When the shrieking noise took the air, seeing him behind you calmed your racing heart. Seeking to ease your nerves and put aside thoughts of what might be out on this dark, spooky night, you decided to strike up a conversation. Your search for a topic was more fruitful than your search for the noise. Your eyes fell on Cove's cast, and you were instantly inspired. Have you broken any other bones?
No.
Oh. It turned out that wasn't much of an engaging topic for him after all. I have broken my arm. So I'm gonna say this. Really? Before you moved here.
Wow.
We're the same that way. That put an end to your injury discussion, but Cove's calmer mood alleviated the bleak atmosphere like you hoped it would. Cove cast his eyes out into the darkness, feeling bolder. Does this make you feel strange? We were people who heard weird noises at night and are out looking for what it is. It's like we're at the start of a book or a movie, and we're the main characters. Sounds like you're breaking the fourth wall, Cove! Bruh. Man, I really broke the fourth wall there. Yeah. It's a fantasy. I like fantasy. The world they found outside looked like their own, but it wasn't. They had stepped into another dimension without even knowing.
Really?
Yep, it's a dimension where everyone has been cursed to sleep until the monster making the noise is defeated. How are we gonna defeat the monster? We'll find magical swords that can defeat the dreaded beast with one blow. Okay. But whatever the noise was, you were confident that you had established that it was not coming from the hill. Once you were satisfied nothing out of the ordinary was to be found on the hill, you had to consider your next step. Realistically, I think by now, I would... okay. Realistically, I think at this point I would be going home, except there is more content to be discovered here. So, park or beach? I'm gonna say beach. It makes sense to me. The beach stretched out in front of you, nothing in sight along its sands, no matter which way you turned. Part of you imagined the noise as some creature of the deep, washed up on shore and calling for aid. That theory had to be taken off the list, for now. Still, you'd spent enough time on the shore to know that the real finds often required a sharp eye and careful attention. The sound was no more than a whimper now. Emboldened, you kept your head high and walked along the sand. Let's see if there's anything here. Cove began to comb the beach for clues. You followed suit. The angry wind... I can't speak. The angry wind sent grains of sand rolling across the beach like waves. You stayed clear of the water, which was rough and choppy tonight, and scoured the area for hints as to what might be happening. You saw something glint in the sand, full of promise, but when you eagerly uncovered it, you found that it was just foil from a chip packet. You stowed it away with a sigh. Did you find something? Just trash. Found myself. Cove shrugged and gave you a sympathetic smile. That's how it goes sometimes. You like hunting for treasures on the beach too, right?
Yeah.
Have you found anything mysterious or weird? You're expecting him to mull the question over for a bit, but Cove answered immediately. Teeth. Like a shark's tooth? You'd seen those for sale in shops, though you'd never been lucky enough to stumble across one at the beach. No, not that. People teeth. What? Mans is finding human teeth in the sand? Excuse me? Why? Where are the teeth coming from? Who? I'm not gonna question it. Let's continue. No. Yeah. You know how grown-ups sometimes don't have their own teeth any longer? And they get fake ones so they can still eat? You nodded, listening in fascinated horror. I found some. The top half. How do you know it was the top half? It had the pink top of the mouth bit, like this. He opened wide and pointed at the roof of his mouth. You let out a squeal. What did you do with them? Mum took them from me. I don't know what happened to it after that. That was... gross. Yeah, it was gross. I hope you wash your hands a billion times after you touch them. I washed them, I'm pretty sure. As you contemplated your options, it occurred to you that you hadn't heard the noise for a while. Cove, I think it's gone. Cove perked up at this. You watched as he listened for the scary sound that had become background noise to your adventure.
You're right.
You both stood awkwardly in the now silent night. Without the mysterious call to lead you, there wasn't a reason to stay out here any longer. The night was still as you walked home, with none of the usual background noises or the eerie whistle from before. You could hear every step you and Cove made like a cough in the movie theater. The two of you came to a halt outside your front door. Never before had it looked so ominous. Now to sneak back inside. Do you sneak out a lot? Not really. I've never snuck out. Thought so. How did you know? I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. That was fair, though it could have been possible you were just so good at sneaking that this was the first time he'd caught you. Are you worried about getting caught?
No.
He was so forthright that you believed him completely. But your dad, won't he get mad or sad if he catches you? He's never happy with what I do. Oh. I'd stay out of it. Huh. It wasn't your place to judge Cove's relationship with his dad. He knew a lot more about it than you did. Alright, I'm going in.
Bye.
Okay, good night. Good night, Cove. Thanks for coming with me tonight. I'm not sure I could have done it by myself. I wanted to go with you. You beamed at him. You turned the doorknob as slowly as the clock's minute hand, holding your breath for the telltale click of the lock, then nudged it open. When all that happened was the door opening, rather than the blaring alarms that you feared, you melted with relief. Back inside your house, you're surprised to find your mum still watching TV. Weirder still, it looked like they were on the same show as they were watching before you left, yet you were positive you'd been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you could use their distraction to your advantage. If you could just get up the stairs, you'd be safe from suspicion. But how would you get there? I'd sneak. You hug the wall as you creeped delicately around the perimeter of the room. It was a valiant effort that any spy would have been proud of, right up until the moment where you tripped over a power cord and nearly fell over. Honestly, I would do that too. I don't pay attention to where I'm going. I just go. I just run, and then I trip over something silly, because that's me, guys. Crystal? You might not have fallen, but your accident ruined your cover. You had been spotted. They abandoned the couch and their show to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise. You weren't in trouble yet.
Are you okay?
What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? Lie. You couldn't bring yourself to own up to what you'd done. I heard scary noises, so I came down here. The surprise gave way to concern. Honey. Mum took you by the hand and led you up the stairs. Your hand is cold. Why didn't you come over to us? I was supposed to be in bed. Crystal, you won't ever be in trouble for coming to us when you're frightened. Would much rather you came to us than try to solve things all by yourself. Her phrasing made you feel bad. The nervousness ate at you as you were tucked into bed. Your mums assumed that your blushing and insistence on delving under the covers was part of your fear, and spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from underneath your sheets. Once your mums had left, you turned over the night's adventure in your mind. It was still hard to believe that you'd really done it. It was harder still to believe that you'd gotten away with it. Even now, you half expected to be caught somehow. Perhaps you'd left the door ajar, or trailed sand where they'd already swept up. You hoped the Cove had gotten home okay. Though he hadn't been worried, being told off was never fun. Wriggling down deeper underneath the sheets, your thoughts turned to the unsolved mystery. Young Cove had only just begun to scratch the surface of it. Maybe you'd solve it, and maybe you wouldn't, but what matters is that you shared the experience with each other. You were still so energized by the night's excitement that you tossed and turned in bed for some time, thinking up theories to share with Cove when you next saw him. Sleep eventually claimed you, but the adventure merely resumed in your dreams. The next morning proceeded mostly like usual, though your mum seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned Cove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escapade either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him or if Cove got away with it. It was amazing to you that it all worked out for you both. As for the sounds that started this all, the adults were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How would they accept something so simple so easily? Maybe it'd make more sense when you were grown up too. Well, that was that. I feel like that was one of the shorter ones, but still, pretty good. I am annoyed that we didn't discover anything of what the noise was. Yeah. But that's, I don't know, maybe if I'd gone to the park in my choicing, then maybe I would know. Anyways, thinking barbecue next. You know, always like a good barbecue. So, let's get into it. Ooh, this is pretty. This is very pretty. You'd been brought along to the big park today, which did an excellent job of living up to its title. The park near your house, with its lonely playground equipment, wasn't even a quarter of the size of expanse of grass and trees that lay before you now. As it was in the next town over and too far for you to walk by yourself, you didn't get to visit it much, so you soaked up the environment. Another difference between this park and the one in your neighborhood was that this one had visitors other than you, Lizzie, Shiloh, and Cove. Today it was the busiest you'd ever seen it, thanks to a community get-together luring people in from all over the local area with the promise of barbecue and fireworks. Your family and Cove's were just two of many. What seemed like dozens of cars were parked up already when you arrived. You saw Cove hesitate as he I can't talk today. You saw Cove hesitate as he took in the growing gaggle of strangers. By your mummy, Lizzie bounced on the balls of her feet, barely containing her excitement. I like fireworks. I'll say that one. It was gonna be so cool. Mum had told you that the people running the community event weren't charging for it, but she wanted them to get something in return. Which is why you'd not been allowed to touch the beautifully iced cupcakes she had carried on her lap during the drive over. It was a special treat for them. Every time the car made a turn, she clutched the box tight enough for her knuckles to strain, much to everyone else's amusement. Mr. Holden's contribution to the party, a huge pack of juice boxes, was tucked under his arm after being retrieved from the car's trunk. Just want to say, I can, like, if someone asks me apple juice or orange juice, I can't decide because they're both good. But if you served me orange juice with pulp, no pulp. You put pulp in my orange juice, you put problems in my drink. Anyway. You bet there have been no such dramatics around that cargo getting here in one piece, but the boxes did lack the beautiful shimmer of Mum's treasured cupcakes.
Okie dokie.
Everyone all set? Should be. Cove, did you put on sunscreen before we left? Yeah, I always do. You don't have to tell me. Mr. Holden deflated, his attempt at caring for his son rebuffed, but he triumphed with a smile.
Good kid.
I don't want you getting burned, or dehydrated either. It'll be a busy day.
Well,
Don't think there's going to be any risk of that second part. Mum nodded as the tables up ahead laden with all food and drink. She was right. To go around. The parents headed over, with you, Lizzie, and Cove trailing after them. A bunch of grown-ups were clustered around there, chatting, but you were much more intrigued by what was up on the tables. Pulp yucky? Agreed. Why is it there? It gets in my teeth. It's gross. Some of it was familiar. Chilled meat, sliced vegetables, big bags of chips. There was a lot you didn't recognize. Your mum said that you weren't to touch the food until they said it was time to eat. I don't want to risk getting caught. It'd be bad if you got in trouble before the event even started. You saw that Mum and Mr. Holden had deposited the food and drink they'd bought. Mum gave the cupcakes one final worried look before turning to you with a smile. Since that's the topic at hand, how about we freshen up with something to drink? Yeah. Look at Lizzie. So freaking adorable. Oh my god, she's got a seashell earring! I didn't realize this! That's so cool! Oh my god, that's so cool! I want seashell earrings. That's so cool! Along with the ones out, there was a giant ice cooler on the ground, stuffed full with cans of soda, boxes of juice and milk, as well as bottles of water. Your drink was... juice. Like a good juice. I don't have juice very often. You slurped the sweet juice through the straw until, all too soon, you were sucking up only air. Your little group took a break while everyone quenched their thirst. Mr. Holden smacked his lips, pantomiming enjoyment. That hit the spot, but you kids should go have fun. You can take your stuff with you and join the other kids playing games. Just don't go too far from the tables. We'll be keeping an eye out, so don't even think about sneaking off. We're not going to other parts of the park today. Lizzie huffed at their comments. They did sound directed at her, but she scanned the surroundings. Nodding her head towards a group of kids like a general directing their battalion, she pointed the way. Come on, let's go over there. Cove's mouth was downturned as he looked from the parents and the other adults to the new kids, clearly not favoring either option. But ultimately, he hunched his shoulders and tagged along after Lizzie. I'll go play with the other kids. You followed after Lizzie and Cove, who were waiting for you on the outskirts of the group of parents. Hurry up! You picked up the pace, moving onto a jog, but when Lizzie pelted away at full speed, you and Cove had no choice but to break out into a run. The other kids were far out in the field. Still, at your speed, it wasn't long until you reached them. As you approached, they turned around to greet the newcomers.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Lizzie, and that's my little sibling, Crystal. The one with the cast is Cove. Hi. Cove simply lifted a hand in greeting. There were a chorus of hellos and names from the other kids. One of the kids looked about to be Lizzie's age or older. The couple seemed to be the same age as you and Cove, and there was one tiny little thing in his arms folded over his chest. What are you up to? The first kid, a boy with curly black hair and neon green sneakers who'd introduced himself as Hayden, shrugged as he looked to the others. Not much. The second kid to pipe up, Lisa, had half her face obscured behind the huge glasses she wore. We haven't decided yet. She glanced wistfully over her shoulder. Following her gaze, you saw the spray of water first, and heard the shriek as someone got splashed in the face before you spotted the person shooting them. Some people were playing with water guns, but there aren't any left. The smallest kid, Noah, grumbled at that. You guessed that was why he was sulking. Spencer, who hadn't said much, patted his shoulder. So that's out. A new kid raced over, with glint in her eyes and her braids streaming behind her. You spotted the plastic orange pistol in her hand too late, when the trigger had already been pressed. Ack! Rude! Hey! Lizzie, who had been caught first, was fuming. Cove wiped the water from his face. You rubbed at your ear, trying to dislodge the water that had pooled there. I'd laugh. It was pretty funny, and you were unhurt by the water trickling down your neck. The girl simply darted off to find more victims, unaffected by your reaction. She didn't mean anything by it. Lizzie tutted, flicking hair out of her face. The girl not meaning anything by it didn't change the fact that she'd been sprayed. Cove looked similarly unimpressed. Lisa's face lit up as she had an idea. Hey, we should catch her. She won't be able to spray people if she's running away from everybody. Yeah. Cove nodded as the other kids murmured in their interest, or lack of it, in the game. We gonna chase a kid? We wanna chase someone, guy? Yeah, let's chase a child. You joined the group of kids in tearing off after the girl with her pistol. Spotting all of you over her shoulder, she laughed and shot her pistol in the air. Only a couple of drops squeezed out. She swerved, causing discord within your team as someone stood on your foot and you collided with Cove's shoulder. Sorry! Cove shot you a smile that gave you a feeling of camaraderie. It's okay. You were closing in on the girl, but you weren't alone. Lizzie's face was set with intent, and the two older kids were hot on her heels too. I want to catch her, so I'd outrun them easily. Gotta make this easy on myself, despite the fact that I cannot run. I have weak legs. You rushed right to the head of the pack. You were close, and then you tackled her to the ground. You did it! The girl who had been caught giggled as she got to her feet, brushing strands of grass from her knees. Smiling, Cove came to a stop by your side. Lizzie whooped with delight, clapping her hands. The boy with the bright sneakers grinned. You're it now. Catch us if you can. Yeah, I'll do it. You won't get away from me. With that, you all dispersed, squealing and laughing as you tried to evade capture. The sour mood from earlier had evaporated entirely, replaced by a light and playful atmosphere. Several rounds later, when almost all of the kids had taken at least one turn as it, the scent of smoke wafted up your nose. Caught by surprise, you looked up and found the brilliant blue sky had turned orange as the sun sunk down on the horizon. With all the excitement, you'd lost track of time completely. Looking over, you saw people standing over the grills and poking them to life. It was nearly time to eat. We should get over there. I'm so hungry. Our parents are in different spots. Yeah. Bye. It was cool playing. Yep. Bye. Bye. You waved goodbye to the other kids, but I cannot speak. You waved goodbye to the other group of kids before hurrying over to your parents with Lizzie and Cove. A tickle unfurled in your throat, growing more persistent as you came closer to the source of the smoke. As the three of you approached the tables, your parents spotted you and came to join you halfway. You tried to greet them, but another cough obstructed your words. That's quite a cough. Are you alright, sweetie? I'm fine. Are you sure? No one needs to go up to the girls if they don't want to. Just let me know what you need. There was no response from the other two kids here. Please, could you get it for me? Of course.
So,
The main thing being served is kebabs. You can have whatever you'd like on it. There's different meats and veggies. What would you like on yours? Mum is right, there's plenty of options. Options. I like many things. I like chicken. Chicken's always good. Beef is okay. Pork is okay. And potatoes are always good. And that'll be everything. Sounds good to me. The veggies will be good for you. Order given, you waited for your food to be ready. Lizzie headed towards you, having issued her own request. Hi again! I heard what you ordered. I'm getting a chicken kebab with all 3 colors of peppers. Noticing that Cove approached, she turned to him. What are you having?
why?
Why does it matter? I don't know. I was just asking. I'm getting beef and shrimp with all the vegetables, except onions. Lizzie hummed while evaluating his response. That's okay, I guess, but chicken is definitely the better one. Then you can eat all the chicken. I'm going to! Chicken is the best choice. Chicken is always good. Love chicken. Lizzie peered over to the girls where the kebabs were being handed out. A growing assortment of kebabs collected in your parents' hands. They're coming over. Don't get jealous of mine when you realize you made the wrong choice, Cove. I didn't make the wrong choice. We all made good choices. It's just what kebab somebody eats. The person serving gave your mummy one final kebab, then your parents moved over to rejoin you. Between them, they were carrying 6 kebabs, one for each of you, including Cove and Mr. Holden. We've got the goods! Cove's dad is looking for a place we can sit. In the meantime, they began passing out the kebabs to the rightful owners. Lizzie smiled smugly as she received hers. These are pretty big. Be careful not to drop it. Try not to prick yourselves with the ends either. They're sharper than you might think. Hearing that, you tentatively pushed the tip of the skewer against your finger. It felt like the point of a newly sharpened pencil. Though it didn't hurt your hand, you wouldn't want it scraping the roof of your mouth or jabbing your tongue. Mummy clucked her tongue. It would have been nice if the options were a little easier to manage and less messy to eat, especially for smaller kids. There aren't even plates for everyone, so we could set the food down for a second. That's what you get for the price of free, but we can hack it, right? Lizzie nodded her head vigorously, clutching her kebab like a trophy. Your parents led you back to the tables. It was immediately evident why Mr. Holden had been sent to scout one out. The benches had quickly filled up as people got their food. Mr. Holden was standing over a corner section near the edges of the sitting area. He beckoned your group over to join him. You clambered onto the bench, taking care not to let your kebab slip from your fingers. Cove took a seat next to you. Lizzie took the other side. Your mum passed the final unclean kebab to Mr. Holden.
Thank you.
Thanks. This looks delicious. Thank you for getting us a space out here. Everyone tucked into their food. You gobbled it up eagerly, only partially obstructed by the awkwardness of eating from a skewer. Running around with the other kids had helped you work up an appetite. Mr. Holden, what did you do? Well, I do a lot of things. Do you play golf? Only if you count mini-golf. One look at Lizzie's stricken face confirmed that she did not. She would enjoy the occasional round at mini-golf place, especially if she had an audience to impress, but your sister took her passion very seriously. Even then, it's been years since I gave it a shot. Cove groaned at the feeble pun. Mum chuckled. You weren't sure if she was responding to the joke, Cove's annoyance, or Lizzie's offense.
Don't worry about it.
Just as well, she'd been dragging you to the green every week. That's because I've got dedication. You need a good drive or two to get far. Mr. Holden nodded, clicking his tongue in appreciation. Cove looked from his father to your sister, lost in the conversation. Outclassed in golf and wit. I don't get it. A drive is a type of golf shot. You should give real golf a try. Maybe I'll even teach you some tricks. Don't try to change my dad to be more like you. Lizzie gave Cove a dirty look at the accusation. Mum felt the need to move the topic ahead before it got heated.
Nice.
It's really sweet of you, but I'm sure Mr. Holden is busy. He might not have time for another hobby. Yeah, I don't think I'm made for that. Still, the offer is appreciated.
Why?
Then tell me something you really do already. You just go away every day. I like scuba diving, though with the business, it's more work than play these days. Surfing and reading, snorkeling. It's a good thing you live by the beach. Don't I know it. I have nightmares about moving
No
inland.
way.
It's not a good joke. The sun had been setting when you got your food, and by the time you'd finished, night had truly fallen. Your sticky fingers were the only remaining evidence of your meal. The kebab had been a great combination, more than the sum of its parts. The seasoning of freedom to choose every ingredient yourself was what made it something to remember. Rising from the table, Mum held up her water bottle. Okay, now that the food is gone, you've got to wash your hands.
Okay.
Crystal, Lizzie, please hold them out. Lizzie complied, coming over and cupping her hands together in front of her. Mum splashed some water over her fingers, and Lizzie rubbed them together, working off any residue. Here. Mum passed her a paper towel from her purse, and Lizzie used it to dry off her hands. Your turn, Crystal. I'll put my hands up. Copying Lizzie, you washed your hands, taking care to clean every crevice between your fingers before wiping them away. Nearby, Cove had taken his own course of action, wiping his hands on his pants and leaving a stain where his fingers had been. Mr. Holden shook his head.
Come on.
Let's clean that off, pal. He scrubbed at the fabric with a scrunched up napkin. Dad, it's not that bad. When everyone was cleaned up, or as clean as they could be with the limited facilities, Mum spoke up.
Let's go.
Let's go make one last check at the coolers and restock on drinks before the fireworks show. No time, we have to get a good spot. Everyone's gonna be taken. How about I go ahead to save space again? You can meet up with me in the field after getting the drinks. Then I'm going with Cove's dad. I'll find the perfect place.
Okay.
Sure thing, I could use an extra pair of eyes. Mum looked her head ruefully at Lizzie, even more enthusiastic than usual attitude.
That's fine.
Alright, me, Cliff, and Lizzie can go find a place to sit. Pam, Cove, and Crystal, do you want to go get the drinks? Okay. I'll get all the stuff we need. As Mum, Lizzie, and Mr. Holden headed off into the wide open field where the fireworks were being set up, you joined Cove and Mum in returning to the cooler where you'd picked up drinks earlier. Even as you approached, you suspected you wouldn't find much in it. Where it originally had been stocked to the brim, it was now half empty. The ice, which had cushioned the drinks and kept them cool, was largely melted, with only a handful of pieces floating like tiny icebergs. Slim pickings. The drinks that remained looked to be bottles of plain water, but you caught a glimpse of something more colourful amongst them. Mum rummaged around in the cooler, excavating a couple of juice boxes from the bottom in the process. Aha! Crystal, Cove, you can take one of those if you want. The perks of helping. Juice box for myself. Cove hesitated, but decided to take a juice box for himself. When you were each loaded up with your chosen drink, plus an extra water bottle or two for someone else in the group, Mum's phone started to ring. She juggled the water bottles over into the crook of her arm and looked at the caller. It's Mum. Hold tight while I get this.
How are you?
Hey, hun. How's it doing? Did you find our perfect spot already? She nodded along to the call, punctuated by ahas as Mum gave her directions. Catching her eye, she gestured towards the grassy area. We've got a place. Come on, we better hurry before the show starts. You and Cove jogged after your mum, who led you through the field and the separate groups of people assembled there, back to the rest of your families.
Hello.
Hello, we're here. And we come bearing drinks, though there wasn't much left. The three of you handed over the spare drinks. You gave Lizzie a bottle of water, but she only had eyes for your juice box. Crystal and Cove have juice. They helped get our drinks. You got to pick where we sat. Don't be selfish. I'm not. Good, then you're going to thank us for bringing you your very own water bottle. Thanks. Once everyone had been equipped with a drink for the big event, you sat on the grass beside Cove and waited for the magic to begin. Most people in the park had taken a seat now, with a few stragglers silhouetted back at the tables in the distance. A few rambunctious kids were still dashing about, but their number was steadily decreasing as the parents called them over and restored order. Someone bearing a cardboard box weaved between the groups, pausing every so often. You nudged Cove and pointed. What are they doing? Looks like they're handing something out. I can't quite make out what it is.
What a pickle.
I hope it's not drinks. Mum chuckled, but Lizzie and Cove were now watching the bestower of the mystery goods keenly. Are they gonna come to us, too? Mum softly put her hands on top of your sister's shoulders, as if she feared Lizzie might bolt over to the stranger. Lizzie didn't even glance at her, eyes locked on the potential prize. I don't know.
In that case,
We'll have to wait and see. I'd be interested. You know, who knows what's in the box. Studying the man with the box closely as he gradually meandered nearer, you could make out that he was handing out small items to most of the groups he stopped at. They seemed to be too short to be water bottles, but beyond that, it remained a mystery. Then the box man made its way to your group. Evening, I'm handing out dessert. Any takers? There's dessert? Lizzie squealed, hopping off the ground. The man chuckled. I'm gonna take that as a yes. Ice cream's on the menu. Vanilla flavored with a twist of either chocolate or strawberry syrup.
Nice.
Nice. None for me though, thanks. Same, but the offer is appreciated. I want chocolate. Can I have a strawberry? And a strawberry for me too, please. Now you're going to have to make a decision. Chocolate or strawberry? I like chocolate. I mean, they're both good. The art's pretty good. Yeah, dude, it's amazing. I love this game. It's so pretty. Okay, I want chocolate, but I'm gonna be shy about it. Oh, and the second chocolate for this one here. Reaching into the box, the man brought all the requested ice creams and tossed them out. It came packaged in a little plastic cup, complete with a wooden spoon stuck to the paper lid. The condensation wet your fingers in a pleasant way.
thank you.
Thank you. Kids, you going to thank the nice man too? There was a chorus of thanks. He cordially nodded and walked off to another group. The man couldn't spend much time with each group, considering how many he had to get to. You peeled back the tab that covered the ice cream and got right into your unexpected treat. It tasted amazing. Lizzie was definitely enjoying hers. Cove was too. You couldn't help thinking about how Cove had strawberry while you had chocolate. Want a bite of mine? He looked around awkwardly, but nodded nonetheless. You caught a bit of ice cream, making sure to hit the chocolate swirl that distinguished it from Cove's, and held it out for him. He nibbled at it. Do you want some of mine? Yeah. He scooped out a chunk of ice cream with his wooden spoon before holding it out to you. You took it gladly. It was gone in one bite.
Oh.
Mum was gazing at the two of you. Her mouth was an open smile, as if she was about to say something else, but Mum tugged on her collar. Don't embarrass them. Hey, if you're sharing, I'll take some. You don't need it. You both had the same flavor.
No?
So what? I'd shake my head. Lizzie stuck her tongue out at the both of you and turned her attention back to her own cup of ice cream. Lizzie munched away happily, but ultimately didn't succeed in monopolizing her attention. Eyes wide, she shook at her mum and pulled on her pants. I didn't get strawberry. Can I have some of yours, please?
Of course.
Of course, sweetie. Lizzie cooed with excitement as Mum presented her with a dollop of ice cream and syrup mixture. Licking her lips, Lizzie lapped it up. Mum, come on now. Lizzie has all the ice cream she needs. She simply laughed and pinched Lizzie's cheek, then dug her spoon again and held it out to you. I just can't resist. Crystal, would you like to take some of mine? Got a whole cup of ice cream to eat already and then had a bite of Cove's. I think that's plenty. That's not the same as getting a little extra from your mum. I would accept. Any ice cream that's free is good ice cream. You ate the treat being offered, much to Mum's chagrin and Mum's dislike. Cove watched the exchange slightly with a blank I can't speak today, guys. Words aren't working for me today. Cove watched the exchange silently with a blank expression. Mum, on the other hand, shook her head, a fond smile on her face. Well, you'd better at least give me some, too. You could have gotten your own if you wanted ice cream. What? The kids have ice cream already, and they're getting some of yours to boot, and I have nothing. Now is when you decide to be firm? Laughing, Mum fed some of her ice cream to your sulking mum. She could never actually follow through with being tough. There. All better now? Yes. Good. How about you, Cliff? Would you like some? No, I'm still okay, but thanks for keeping me in mind. Cove, it's only fair that you get the choice too. Cove shook his head firmly, concentrating on his own cup. Mum smiled. Okay, as long as no one is feeling left out. Mum was always so nice to everyone. Then, the first firework cut through the sky, whistling as it ascended until it hit its crescendo with an explosion. The park flashed as if alight. Squealing, Lizzie leapt to her feet, her forgotten ice cream tumbling to the ground as the firework crackled into tiny drops of glitter in the sky. It's starting! Everyone else looked up to the sky as another firework whizzed through the air. With each explosion, Lizzie would jump into the air. It was impossible to tear your eyes from the scene. Cove sat by his dad, captivated by the sky sparkles and flashes overhead. Mr. Holden watched the fireworks scene impassively. He did smile at you, and even I can't speak. He did smile at you, and even gave a thumbs up when he noticed you looking over. Mum hopped to her feet, pulling Mum with her, pushing her to join Lizzie and jumping up in tandem at every crack of a firework. Mum then bent down to offer you a hand up too. Got up to join your family. Your mum's faces lit up, literally and metaphorically, as you got off the ground. The four of you shrieked and leapt along with the sparkles in the sky, not trying to contain your joy at experiencing the sights together. The fireworks continued, some twisting like a coil of spiraling. I can't... Guys, I can't speak. Okay, let's breathe. Okay. The fireworks continued, some twisting like the coil of a spring as they arched into the air, others shooting straight from the ground and shattering into a million tiny specks. Every color got its spotlight in the show, from fiery reds to eerie greens and blues that could rival the ocean. You eventually noticed that at some point, Mr. Holden had let Cove perch atop his shoulders, or more likely, Cove had to be persuaded to give it a try. Still, Cove's face was covered with a wide smile that matched his father's own. You imagined the view from way up there was pretty impressive. It was also nice they were getting along for once. The show built up to a grand finale that boomed over the park and filled every inch of the sky, the twinkling lights representing the full spectrum of the rainbow. The exhilaration that had fueled you while the fireworks was going off was sapped dry now that the show had finished. You collapsed into a giggling heap on the ground, suddenly aware of how your legs ached from your exertion. Lizzie gave a final whoop of delight and shared a high five with Mum as Mum shouted for an encore into the night. You didn't know what that meant, but you liked the way it made Mum laugh. Cove was on the ground again, but continued looking at the sky, dazzled by what had once been. Mr. Holden nudged him, breaking his concentration, yet Cove allowed his dad to wrap him in a one-armed hug. Though the sun had gone down long ago, the hair on your bare arms was warm. You took in your giddy family, their spirits buoyed by the firework display, then your new friend and his father, who looked happy in their own quiet way and smiled. This had been a pretty special night. Damn, that was really sweet. Alrighty. How am I getting tired already, guys? Alrighty. Okay. Well, we've got one more of the DLC thingy-majigs. And then we can click on the and then summer ended. Dude, I was tired at 5:30. I've been tired all day. This is just me. Whatever. We got one more hangout to do. Well, moment. Damn, I guess I need to fork over another $6. Don't. Not yet. No, how dare you. Alrighty. So. Good. I've been yawning all day too. Okay. Oh, let's get into the sleepover moment.
Okay.
Alright, kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time as if it had heard your mum's words. You halted your game and looked over. Mum had almost done setting the table. She was walking around the mahogany wood in the process of putting down the cutlery. Mum was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred, uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Finally, I'm ready to eat. And she cast a sly glance in your direction. You recognized that look. Last onto the table is a rotten egg. I haven't, but it was too late. Lizzie had bolted towards the kitchen. I throw a cushion. Grabbing one of the cushions from the sofa, you threw it towards her. It hit her on the back of the legs, but it was too soft to do anything of real consequence, and she merely brushed the attack off with a scowl. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mum moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again! You didn't bother trying to talk to her about that. I won! That means you're the rotten egg. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips, then looked over your shoulder. Cove, you think so too, right? You blinked. You hadn't noticed what he had been doing during this little event, which wasn't much. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, the arm with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. It felt sort of strange to see him here so late. I'm really tired. Tonight, Cove had come to your house for a sleepover. Your mums and his dad had planned it a few days ago. You were excited when your mums told you their idea. There was so much to do. You had considered all the games you could play and other stuff you could do with Cove for days. And you'd even helped Mum search the storage room for a sleeping bag and extra bedding to prepare for his visit. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's question, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her, not that Lizzie would make it easy.
Come on.
Well, did I win or what?
No.
No. What? I don't think you've won. How come? It's not my fault Crystal's slow. Rude. Cheating's cheating, and cheaters never win. You always pick their side. Cove snuck a shy peek at you before answering her. I picked them, and they picked me. You're a couple of rotten eggs, then. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or a rotten egg. You're each farm fresh. Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Alright.
Now listen to Mum and come sit at the table for dinner. All three of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you when Mum turned her back. Your parents brought the last of the food, and they took seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He stood up from the spot on the floor, but he hadn't made a move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Slowly, he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, one free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last 2 were on the other side where your mums were sitting. You can sit anywhere you want to. Cove's glaze met your pink eyes. Briefly, he grinned back. I forgot that I made my character have pink eyes. Damn, it's really quite rainy. Yeah, it's apparently supposed to get, like, real bad. Yeah. I can hear the rain outside, dude. He walked over, pulled out the chair next to yours, and sat down. You were glad he wanted to sit with you. He just needed to know it was okay. Now that everyone was situated, Mum began to pass out plates.
Okay.
Dig in, kids. I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all of the veggies. Yes, Mum. Each person at the table served themselves, except for one. Cove hesitated again. He fidgeted with his hand clamped on top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye, at least. That's pineapple chicken. Want to try some? Not really. Sorry. By then, your mums had noted that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey?
Well,
Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow. Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating, then spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink, that's what happens if you miss a meal. Elizabeth, that's not true. You know that. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with a fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this.
shoot.
Oh shoot. Knew I should have asked your dad what your favourite foods were. It's alright, Lani. Maybe he'll find a new favourite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. I think he'd like the pineapple chicken. It's yummy. He ultimately trusted your judgment. At your suggestion, Cove carefully spooned the rice and chicken onto the plate. You saw that he took more of the grilled pineapple than any of the vegetables. You nodded, pleased, and your mums let it slide. At first, Cove poked at the food. Clearly, he was apprehensive to eat something new, but he took a few exploratory bites.
Right?
It's good, huh? Isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still speared more meat with his fork and ate it, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mum grinned at his words, satisfied that even though it wasn't exactly a glowing commendation, Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. Don't be mean to your friend. We're not friends. Oh. Mum floundered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. You weren't surprised by Cove's declaration. The more you got to know him, the more you realized he wasn't the type of kid to keep his opinions to himself. She wasn't easy to get along with all the time, though Cove didn't make much of an effort either. Still made you nervous about your own relationship with him. Maybe he didn't like you as much as you thought he did. You'd never asked before. When you gave Cove a look, he returned a small smile, and that made you feel a little better, even though you were still unsure. Your mum looked at Mum, only to give a shrug.
No.
Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such thing as weird person and non-weird person. There's just different perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to anyone, but Pam... Mum tried to whisper exclusively to Mum. Her attempt to make it audible over the sounds of clanking silverware meant you caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends. He said so. As parents can only try, they sometimes fail. Not all kids will be as thick as thieves. Now less talking, more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But Mom... No buts. We've talked about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. But for now, you don't get to stay up late. Lizzie sobbed, muttering under her breath about how it wasn't right. Stayed quiet and finished your meal. It was good food, and you were pretty content to keep eating. That's great. That's the idea. Good job, Crystal. Everyone else get to it. The rest of dinner passed by uneventfully. Cove was silent for most of it, even when you nudged him and tried to get him to talk. All too soon, the tables cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered to your bedrooms. Mum finished tucking you in and kissed your brow as Mum poked her head into the room. All ready for lights off, you two? You were lying comfortably in your bed, the blanket hiked up to your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Mum had set the sleeping bag on the floor for Cove, just beside your bed. He already wiggled inside. You nodded for the both of you. I can't speak. What is with me today? You nodded for the both of you in response to Mum's question. Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mum tweaked her nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and then left. Mum took her place, sitting on the edge of your bed.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, sweetie. She pressed a soft kiss to your forehead. You giggled as strands of her hair fell forward and tickled you. Mum smiled down affectionately at you, then moved her attention to Cove, who watched from his spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high and shakes his hands like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. Keeps doing that until sometimes he does drop me on my bed. Other times he lowers me down and we pretend like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited talking about the nightly ritual he and his dad shared. He seems to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. But I don't want to do that here. Have fun. I think you're right that it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be a soft enough landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Crystal's other mum. But I'm the nicer one. Just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up.
Take care.
Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested her hand on the light switch and looked to you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite. With a last smile, Mum turned the lights off and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. You listened to her footsteps fade as she walked down the hallway. But even as the sound vanished, your eyes stayed open. It was so exciting to have Cove spend the night. You were happy that Cove was spending the night, but you couldn't shake the conversation from earlier at the dinner table. Cove had said that he and Lizzie weren't friends, but that wasn't the part that was bothering you. You couldn't stop from wondering what he really thought about you. I would ask. Things like this would eat at me until I get an answer, so I would ask. Cove? Yeah? Are we friends? Cove didn't speak for a few minutes, and you wondered if you startled him with a question. The longer the silence stretched, the more uneasy you felt about his impending answer. Do you think we're friends? You wrinkled your nose at the question being redirected back at you. The way Cove had asked it made you think that maybe he hadn't questioned it before, and now more than ever you wondered if he should have kept quiet instead. Yeah, we're friends. As soon as the words left your mouth, you knew they were true. Okay. You could only make out Cove's outline in his sleeping bag, but you could hear the smile in his voice anyway, and it felt good to have an answer to the question burying your mind. The two of you were officially friends. You started on Cove's... Talking! I want to talk properly, please! Let's... breathe. Okay. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could only see a faint outline of a lump under the covers. Cove? What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything, since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard his sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up. Your eyes had gotten used to the low light level, so you could see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag, bobbled towards your side table, and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second, then pulled his hand out. Instead of his glasses though, he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew without reading the title which one it was. That was one your mums would read to you. It was special. I thought you were looking for your glasses. I was. Then I felt this. It looks cool. The compliment he afforded your special book had you grinning, the confusion forgotten. It really is cool.
Oh?
Oh yeah? What's it about? It's a story about a squire who wants to become a knight and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but... It has cool pictures. Some of them even take up the whole page. There's one where a squire and dragon meet. They're fighting and the poses are awesome and the dragon's breathing fire. Cove looked excited by your words. He flipped the book over and focused the backside summary. You must be pretty interested in it. You were reminded of the hours you'd spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and the pictures inside. You glanced out the window. The moon was high in the sky. It was definitely the time when you were supposed to be asleep. You couldn't keep staying up. You weren't sure when it hit you, but sometime between Cove spotting your book and you explaining its contents, your eyelids began drooping. As enthralled as you were by the book, you didn't want to stay up. Cove only glanced over when you laid back down, resting your cheek on your pillow. I'm gonna go to bed.
Well...
Is it okay if I read your book? From your relaxed position, you narrowed your eyes on him thoughtfully. Sure. He did say he couldn't sleep. Maybe he'd get drowsy after reading for a while. I have a flashlight. It's in the drawer that's under the top one. Thanks. He carefully went back to the side table, rifling around inside for the flashlight. He also grabbed his glasses this time. Then Cove climbed into his sleeping bag, his back to you. He propped himself on an elbow and you guessed he had the book in front of him. He clicked on the flashlight, angling it away so the beam of light didn't shine on you. You put your back to him too, just in case, your eyes slipping mercifully closed. Good night. Night. Silence descended, occasionally broken by the turning of pages, but it was soft enough to not be a disturbance. Soon, you were fast asleep. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed in your pillow, your pajamas were sticking to you, and your mouth was dry. Slowly, you raised yourself on your elbows. You yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, planning on getting water from the kitchen, when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze. Then you remembered you weren't alone in your room tonight. Cove? That you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Having just awakened at an unknown time of night, you felt a little creeped out. You got up and turned on the lamp from your side table, feeling a little better than the faint light illuminated the bedroom. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I keep waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You helped your mums redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's not that it's bad. I just always sleep in my bed, in my room. That made things a little clearer. It wasn't anything you'd done. Cove couldn't sleep in a new place. He wondered how long it took for Cove's bedroom in his new house not to be weird to him. Probably a while. I'm gonna go. What? It shook off the last of your doziness. He was going to walk outside back to his own house, at this time of night, all by himself? He noted your shocked expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in. I've gone outside late before, and I have to go. I should tell my mums. No, I don't want you to. I'll just leave. My dad can call them in the morning. You knew that you could just let him go, but something inside you was saying it wouldn't be right to do. It's too late for you to go outside on your own. It'll be bad. Cove grumbled quietly, though stayed put. Okay, you can tell them. I'll wait. Good. When you crept into their room, Mum was still up reading in bed, while Mum had already fallen asleep. When Mum woke Mum up, they were both surprised to hear Cove wanted to leave, and the two of them followed you back to your room to see him.
Sweetie.
Cove? Are you alright, sweetie? Is there anything we can do to help? Mum sounded tired after having just woken up, but she smiled at Cove kindly. Cove shook his head firmly, not meeting anyone's eyes as he did so. I just want to go home. I'm sorry you don't feel comfortable staying. How about you come downstairs with us and we'll call your dad to get you? Cove headed towards the door. He stopped halfway there and turned back to you. Bye, Crystal. I'm sorry. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Cove. You turned as he shuffled past your mum's and out of the room, and Mum turned to you before leaving. Alright, off to sleep, kiddo. We'll make sure Cove is taken care of. Good night again. Good night, Crystal. You listened to the sounds of their footsteps on the stairs as you huddled back down in bed, pulling your blanket up around your shoulders. You were sad that Cove wanted to leave. You thought the two of you were having a good time, but you understood that it might be hard to sleep somewhere other than your own bed. Eventually, your eyes started getting heavy, and with a loud yawn, you finally got comfortable in your bed and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, you were awoken by the sound of Mum's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Crystal, wake up. It's time to get up and at 'em. The sun was peeking through your curtains, and you rubbed at your eyes as they adjusted to the new light. Mum sat down on the bed next to you, and you blinked at her for a moment, confused. You blinked at her for a moment, confused, until you caught the empty sleeping bag on the ground and remembered what had happened during the night. Mr. Holden came over to pick up Cove and take him home. You should have seen his hair when he turned up, half asleep. It was even messier than Mum's hair in the morning. She chuckled at the thought, and you could tell she was trying to make you feel better about the whole situation, and so you smiled at her. Thank you for letting us know that Cove wasn't feeling good, Crystal. That was a nice thing to do. You nodded in agreement, and Mum went on to say that maybe once Cove started to feel more comfortable, that he could try sleep over again sometime. You smiled, looking forward to another chance to show him how fun your house could be. The next time you saw Cove and Mr. Holden, they both apologized for Cove having left so suddenly. You assured them that it was okay. In the end, the two of you and your parents were eventually able to move past the ill-fated sleepover. It had all been a learning experience, according to the adults. You could accept that. There were definitely things you learned from it. Well, that was the sleepover one. Think, how long have we been going? A bit over an hour. Well, I know the and then summer ended things do take a bit, and I'm getting a bit tired. So, do we think, should I leave it here? Or should I push and do the, and then summer ended section thingy? Because I'm not sure how long that'll take to do. What are we thinking? Because I'm feeling like might want to, leave it here. I will save though. Save, overwrite. There we go, and then close that. Okay, well, learn what you do as long as you're fine. Yeah, well, I mean, I've saved, so we're all good here. I think we will probably leave it here. I'm a bit tired already. Well, alright, let's see who we shall raid. Let me open my Twitch. Mute that. Alrighty. I think. What have I got live? Who is live right now? This music is such a vibe. Let's see, is there anyone else currently playing Our Life Beginnings and Always? Nope, just me. Wow. Okay, I think I'll probably send you to Dash Ducks. They're a 24-hour duck stream channel thing. So, we'll raid Dash Ducks. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, let's hit start raid. We will be going to Dash Ducks, my dudes. We will be going to see the ducks. Alrighty. Let's go! Good night, everyone!